Hey guys, Kris here. In this video, we're going to talk about the all-new Volvo XC90 electric that should come to market already in 2023. We're also going to talk about 4 new electric Volvos that are rumored to come to market in the next few years. So I already made a video about the electric Volvo XC90 just a few weeks ago, but since then, there's a lot of new information that has surfaced online in articles, and also I've been contacted by somebody at Volvo somewhere anonymously, and I'm going to read a message from this person because, well, if this is true, things are very exciting and a little bit of, behind the scenes. So what's going on? So guys, if you're new to the channel, my name is Kris. I have this channel dedicated to testing EVs. I do range tests, charging tests, and reviews. And I also, well, make videos like this about new EVs. And I'm currently this week testing this car I'm sitting in here, the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. So in the next few videos, there are going to be videos on this car. So if you don't want to miss out on any of the upcoming videos on this car and other EV content, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And also, if you like this video and this type of content, please hit that like button. Thank you very much. In the video I made a few weeks ago, I was talking about where the heck is the new Volvo XC90, because a few years ago there were a lot of rumors that it was going to come to market soon, and then the pandemic hit and then everything just went silent. But we're going to address that because when we read this message I have, it's going to make a lot more sense. But when I made that video, there was a lot of new information about the current generation Volvo XC90 at the time that I had missed. And that is, they're going to keep on producing and selling the current generation Volvo XC90 and just keep updating it alongside selling the new Volvo XC90. And the big question is, will it be called the Volvo XC90, the next version, which will be electric? Well, I doubt it, and it seems to be, well, the case that it's not going to be called the Volvo XC90, and that makes sense when they're going to build, well, the current generation Volvo XC90 and just keep updating it for the next few years. And this is kind of a smart move because they're bringing a whole new vehicle to market, which is electric, built on a dedicated electric platform, and then they're going to, sell the current generation Volvo XC90 that already sells or still sells very good. I think last year they sold like 100,000 of them. So it's still a very popular vehicle, even though it is 7 years old now, guys. So it makes sense to sell that car alongside a new car because, the markets around the world are changing rapidly. Here in Europe, and especially here in Norway, they're not going to be able to or even allowed to sell, internal combustion engine cars like petrols and diesels in the next few years. But in other markets, maybe in the US and in Asia and in the Middle East, the, well, situation may be different. So they want to have different vehicles for different markets. So, that kind of makes sense. So, that's the news there. And I think there's already, a updated version of the Volvo XC90 T8, the hybrid, that now has 455 horsepower. It has a much bigger, battery pack. I think it's closer to 20 kilowatt hours, maybe 18 kilowatt hours. When I had my Volvo XC90 T8, I think that was the first update to the battery pack, and that was like 10.5 kilowatt hours, and the first generation had 9.4 kilowatt hours. So this new one having like around 18, I think, gives it a range of around 60 kilometers. That is very exciting. So Inside EVs wrote an article, and they wrote that the next generation they're not calling it the XC90, they're calling it a full-size 3-row electric SUV. And they're hinting that it will have, cues from the Volvo Recharge concept, which was an electric concept that Volvo showed next year. And I talked a bit about this in my last video because I was like, I want Volvo to build a full-size, proper SUV electric car, because I've just been driving the Neo ES8, which was, this full-size 3-row electric SUV, and it got impressive range and consumption, even though it's a big box. So considering that, there's no reason why Volvo shouldn't make, a traditional luxury SUV just electric. But making it on an all-electric platform dedicated to electric vehicles makes sense, and not doing like they've done with the Volvo XC40 and the Volvo C40, which is, built on an internal combustion engine car, and also the Polestar 2, which has been criticized for having high consumption. And I love those cars to death. I love the Polestar 2. You guys know I've been, driving that car a lot in the past year. Also the XC40 P8 and also the C40. I love that car also, and all those cars. But they do have very high consumption, and tests here on the channel show that they have very high consumption for being the size of vehicle. So obviously, going that route, Volvo have done, building their, sharing platforms with internal combustion engine cars and then converting them to EVs is not the way to go. So having a dedicated EV platform. And what is interesting is that they plan on selling 20,000 units of this per year. And it's going to be a full-size 3-row luxury SUV. And this is the first car coming to market. So I really hope that this will be a large car and not, look more like the current generation Volvo XC90 and not too much the Volvo Recharge concept. Of course, if they're, having their new design language, new cues from that car, that is fine. And then there's rumored to be a new Volvo the project is called the V546. It's the internal production code, or project code, and it will slot in between the XC90 and XC60 all electric vehicle, which sounds very, very interesting. And that makes me think that that car will be maybe the size of something like Audi e-tron, the big Audi e-tron, and BMW iX, because that car is in between the XC60 and XC90. It's not as big as the XC90, none of those cars. And that makes sense to have a competitor. And that also makes sense if they're going to build the big one. It will be a full size, over 5 meters long, maybe closer in size to that Neo ES8. So that's very exciting. And also there's rumored to be an electric Volvo XC60 also. On their current generation, I don't know. Maybe there will be a new generation XC60 and they're going to do that. Maybe, they're going to have this full-size electric SUV and then they're going to have something to compete with the e-tron, big e-tron, and also the iX, and then they're going to have an XC60, which they'll build, as an internal combustion engine version and also as an electric version. Kind of makes sense, but again, it's a bit, a little bit weird, but that would be cool. And then they're going to have a car that slots below the Volvo XC40. And then the last car that's rumored, the fifth car, is an electric sedan. So that will be very, very cool. I've dreamt about having like a Volvo S60 or an S90 just electric. That would be so cool. I love those cars to death. One of the most beautiful and stylish design cars, in my opinion. So having them fully electric, that would be very, very cool. So all of these things are exciting and a lot of rumors have come to market now. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read a message from one of my followers here on Instagram that has sent me a message. And he was like, the platform was almost ready in 2020, but then all of a sudden changes came. And that makes sense, right? That makes sense because around that time, Volvo were teasing it. They were saying that they were going to soon reveal it. And then we're 2 years on and still nothing. Volvo decided to switch from conventional diesel petrol hybrid platform that reminded of the current XC60 and more to an EV electric platform, an EV-minded platform. The leaders within Volvo saw that the EV is the future, basically scrapped all work on the floor structure itself and started from page one. So that makes sense, right? They scrapped, and that's why we don't have the car yet. That's why we're hearing rumors 2-3 years ago about this car coming to market. We even read articles where dealers had seen this car. Maybe they saw the XC Recharge concept. I don't know what they saw, but the car's still not here 2 years later on. But this makes sense, right? One thing was sure, in 2019, the XC90 is a US model only. It's a model that will be built in the US, like the current S60. So that means that the current XC90 is going to be phased out in Europe and only going to be built in the US, where adoption to electric cars seems to be one of the slowest around the world, also with legislation. Like, so every S60, all S60s in the world are built at the plant in Charleston, we know that. So EU and US lawmakers have been very fast on changing the laws on emissions. Volvo saw that we're going to go all EV before 2020, and the Volvo XC90 was suddenly out of the question, right? That makes sense, right? Legislation has come in the past few years that, they're not going to be able to sell these ICE engine cars. So scrapping that platform that really doesn't have a future and, not pouring, billions of euros or billions of dollars into a brand new XC90 and then an electric platform. It makes sense to only pump that into an electric platform. And also this is interesting because he says that workers at Volvo saw the XC40, XC60, XC90, all these cars before they hit the showrooms at Geneva, Frankfurt, and Stockholm. So I'm hoping we're still in schedule, 7 years on, that they will show this car at, the IAA in Frankfurt in September. So it seems like we are getting what I wanted all the time, a full-size 3-row luxury SUV. So, I'm ready to order that car. Well, I didn't take delivery of my Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo just, a month ago, but I'm ready. If that car comes to market next year, I've said to you guys so many times, I'm so ready to get into a Volvo again. I love the XC90. I've had 2 of them. I've had a diesel and I've had a hybrid. But, at this point in time, they are old, 7 years old, debuted 8 years ago, and well, I like the new and fresh stuff. So, they're kind of out of dated, but they're still very good cars. I drove the XC90 T8 1.5 years ago, and it's still a very good car. But having, this dedicated electric new XC90 or full-size electric Volvo SUV, maybe it's going to be called Embla. We don't know. They have been, rumored to have a brand new naming convention, so we'll see. So guys, let me know what you think down below. I'm so excited about the 3-row full-size electric car, and also this car that seems to be sized around the Audi e-tron, the big Audi e-tron and the BMW iX. It really means that Volvo are serious here with, their new EVs. And they've said earlier that they're going to focus on efficiency and charging speed and tech. So guys, let me know what you think down below. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.